In this episode, we talk about the reasons the RSS has been silent on both the Sambhal and the Ajmer Dargah cases. We also talk about the stampede which took place during the premiere of the Telugu film Pushpa 2. But first, we talk about Maharashtra's new Chief Minister, Devendra Fadnavis. Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargava, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. Days after the Mahayuti alliance swept the assembly elections in the state, BJP leader Devendra Fadnavis took oath as the Chief Minister of Maharashtra yesterday.
मी देवेंद्र सरिता गंगाधरराव फडणवीस ईश्वर साक्ष शपथ घेतो की कायद्याद्वारे स्थापित झाले आहे अशा भारताच्या संविधानाबद्दल मी खरी श्रद्धा व निष्ठा बाळगेन. मी भारताची सार्वभौमता व एकात्मता उन्नत राखीन. मी महाराष्ट्र राज्याचा मुख्यमंत्री म्हणून माझी कामे निष्ठापूर्वक व सत्सद विवेक बुद्धीने पार पाडेन आणि संविधान व
Fadnavis, who was elected as the state BJP legislative party leader at a meeting on Wednesday, took charge as the chief minister for the third time. In 2014, Fadnavis was handpicked by Prime Minister Modi for the post after he led the party to its highest victory of 122 seats and completed 5 years at the helm. 5 years later, in 2019, Fadnavis took oath as the chief minister along with Ajit Pawar as the deputy CM, though the government lasted barely 72 hours. But despite all his ups and downs, he remains BJP's top leader in the state. Now, we have been talking to the Indian Express's Shubhangi Khapre in the lead up to the polls. And she told us that there are actually a number of things that set him apart as a politician.
Devendra Fadnavis is a politician. If you see his political career of last 25 years now, he has always been a kind of a person who was academically inclined. So even as a legislature, he's been in the state legislative assembly since 1999 till 2024, uninterrupted. In successive elections, he's won. And he represents this Nagpur Southwest constituency. So his image was always that he is a person who is a no-nonsense kind of a guy, a politician who is gentle, who is not used to, rough and tough kind of the path taken by many of his colleagues or, his contemporaries, one must say. So he always came across as a very civilized person whose focus was development, and for whom politics always meant development of Maharashtra, development of a country, development of state, and larger issues, like something academic, something like reforms aspect, basically. So his concentration was always that, even as a legislator, he always used to excel when on issues of, the budget speech in the House. Even when he was not the chief minister, or he was not a deputy chief minister, or even before he became the state party president, he had made a mark for himself because of his performance in the state legislative assembly as a very good orator. And when he delivered a speech or when he participated in the debates in the floor of the House, everybody would very attentively listen to him, what he said.
आणि म्हणून एकच गोष्ट या ठिकाणी सांगू इच्छितो, दुनिया के सारे शौक पाले नहीं जाते. दुनिया के सारे शौक पाले नहीं जाते. कांच के खिलौने हवा में उछाले नहीं जाते. कोशिशें करने से जीत होती है आसान, क्योंकि हर काम तकदीर के भरोसे टाले नहीं जाते.
And it was never directed on the party lines, or it was never directed against any individual leader in that sense. So in his formative years, he actually had no enemies to that extent. Though he always was groomed in the backdrop of RSS and has always been in BJP party. His entire career is in BJP party. He's a right-winger. But still, people across the party lines had great respect for him as a politician. And that came from because his personal orientation was always for reforms and development. Yes.
And his first stint as the chief minister was in 2014. Could you talk about what were some of the biggest highlights of his tenure, especially in terms of the major developments that happened in the state?
I'll mention two very important decisions he had taken when he became chief minister in 2014. That was also the first time the BJP got its own chief minister in Maharashtra. And Devendra Fadnavis, when he took the charge as chief minister, first thing he did was he had taken a pledge that, he'll make Maharashtra drought-free. And he introduced a very innovative kind of a scheme that's called Jalyukt Shivar Abhiyan. Now, Jalyukt Abhiyan was a water conservative programs where his government actually identified 25,000 villages, especially in drought-hit Marathwada region and parts of Vidarbha, and also in some parts of Western Maharashtra. But yes, essentially in Marathwada region. And he took up the scheme with all seriousness, I mean, he himself traveled in all these villages in the scorching sun, heat, in the summers of 42 degrees, 44 degrees. And he had a very good team which backed this kind of initiative.
Right. There was a lot of focus that water should be accessible to every person, every farmer especially. And it had become a kind of a mass movement, and there were also NGOs that started associating with it. But we know that this scheme was stopped when the MVA came to power in 2019. Could you talk about why that happened?
Yes, unfortunately, what happened is they came up with a report of CAG, and there were some discrepancies in some of the projects, and they tried to tarnish the image of Fadnavis government, taking up those examples. But that was not the fact actually, because see, when you do any project on a massive scale, there are bound to be some kind of discrepancies, some kind of shoddy work. There are going to be lapses. There could be even corruption in that sense. In some cases, not all. But I think overall the scheme was very good. And I think now with his full mandate, I'm sure that Jalyukt Shivar will be one project he'll definitely launch with a greater resolution that he has to make Maharashtra drought-free. And I think even before taking the oath, the first function which he attended 2 days ago, he did mention that he's going to ensure that, Maharashtra has to become drought-free, and he'll do everything possible. His government will do everything possible to kind of take some bold measures towards that.
Right. In that sense, this is a very long-term vision, as in he started it back then, and it seems like he's still at it.
Yes, he is. And also the reports of the central government in 2020, I think they did show that, the initiative which his government had taken in 2014, they were showing results. They were showing positive results because, the farmers in this drought-hit areas, instead of taking one crop, they had, because of the access of water, through the water conservation measures, they started taking the crop twice a year. So all these positive results had happened. I think the initiative was very good. It yielded very positive results, but somewhere there were lapses, there were some issues. And I think now again, with this government, I'm sure this will be one issue which will weigh on his mind and which he will take it to its logical end in the next 5 years.
And during his first stint, there was also a lot of focus on attracting investments to the state. There was the Make in India Summit, and then there was the Magnetic Maharashtra event in 2018. And that saw investment promises amounting to some 12 lakh crore across sectors. And, by the time his first term ends, I think he was perhaps the top leader in the state, right? Especially for the BJP, he was in a very envious position.
Yes, you're absolutely right. In 2014, he was handpicked by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and who had introduced him as a gift of Nagpur to the state of Maharashtra. And Narendra Modi, at that time, what we hear from the party leaders is that he was very impressed with Fadnavis's politics at that time. That was his also first challenge where, he did not have administrative experience in that sense. Like he was neither a minister ever in any government. And he was a good legislator, definitely. So giving him, the biggest role as a chief minister of Maharashtra, that was a very, very huge responsibility. And I think the central leadership had taken a liking for him, especially Prime Minister Narendra Modi, because of his orientation towards development. And he always looked beyond state also. And at the end of his first tenure in Maharashtra and even up in Delhi, he was considered as number 3, number 4, in that sense. And but yes, the way things changed, the way after the Shiv Sena at that time, Uddhav Thackeray broke ties with BJP, and he had to sit in opposition, and they lost Maharashtra state. And then a lot of, the things happened after that. But I think till then, and even now, actually, BJP leaders, even now, the central leaders or even the RSS leaders, they always have seen him as someone who's very promising, who's very honest and sincere in his conduct. For example, in Lok Sabha, when he lost the elections, I think we'll have very few examples of leaders who actually come in the forefront and say that I take the responsibility for this defeat, and I'll take the responsibility also to ensure that my party will again return with greater mandate. I mean, to inculcate that kind of confidence in a cadre which was absolutely demoralized.
महाराष्ट्र में चूंकि एक प्रकार से भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सारी जिम्मेदारी महाराष्ट्र में एक लीडर के रूप में मेरे ऊपर थी, तो ये जो हमारा महाराष्ट्र में डिबैकल हुआ है या जो हमें एक प्रकार से हार मिली है, हमारी सीटें कम हुई है, इसकी पूरी जिम्मेदारी ये मेरी है। मैं इस जिम्मेदारी को स्वीकारता हूं। कहां कमियां रही है उसको पूरा करने की कोशिश करूंगा। मैं भागने वाला आदमी तो हूं नहीं, और जोरों से मैदान में उतरूंगा और हमारी पूरी पार्टी को साथ में लेकर हम लोग वापस नई स्ट्रैटेजी तैयार करेंगे, और नई स्ट्रैटेजी तैयार करके हम लोग जनता के बीच जाएंगे। जनता का जो विश्वास है उस विश्वास को हम लोग संपादित करेंगे।
And there's a very nice kind of anecdote where he had said, he had posted on a Twitter that Deva Bhau, that was a campaign name that was given to him when he was campaigning in assembly elections. People in his hometown called him Deva Bhau. The Bhau means brother. So Deva is a short name for Devendra. So he said Deva Bhau does what he says, and he definitely does what he doesn't say. And that kind of, assertion in the middle of the campaign, and especially when you're on a complete back foot, when everybody is waiting for your, like to see if you're going to stand post-assembly elections, to make that kind of assertion was, I think, pretty daring. I mean, in that sense, he is a daredevil. And in one of the meetings in Nagpur, I think, where he actually said that, don't create hurdles for me. Those who don't want to work, those who are not confident, those who feel it's no point trying also, I humbly request you people to just be at home and allow me to deliver. I will deliver and bring the results. So that kind of, confidence in himself. And I'm sure at that time, even he didn't know they're going to get this landslide mandate. Nobody in the party knew about it. I mean, now, whatever people may say, but number of people we spoke to, none of them has ever said that they are going to cross 200 Mahayuti. They all were expecting only 150 to 160, 70. So nobody knew about it. But yes, he has delivered in that sense.
And also, when the Mahayuti was being formed, it was Eknath Shinde who had left the Shiv Sena and he was made the chief minister. And Devendra Fadnavis became his deputy CM. Could you talk about what was that like for him? Because back then there were a lot of talks that the central leadership had done that to sort of clip his wings. But, just as someone who had been at the helm, what was it like for him to be in that position?
See, the strength of Fadnavis is he can analyze things very well. I mean, that's one thing about him. He never takes decision purely based on sentiments. He is that way very sharp and shrewd. He analyzes things clinically. So in that sense, the chief ministership going to Shinde was known to him because he was amongst the, I think, top 2 or 3 or 4 people who knew exactly what was happening. And he was not only knew about it, but he was also part of the strategy and when it came to implementing and executing. So he knew when someone breaks Shiv Sena, I mean, that was something unheard of, in history of Maharashtra. And I think credit must be given to Shinde for that, because to break a party like Shiv Sena was not an easy thing, So in that sense, yes, Fadnavis was not naive. He knew that when you are getting an alliance partner who has broken a regional party, a party that was built by Bal Thackeray, definitely the central leadership are going to reward him. And they will reward him very, very generously. So he knew about it. So Fadnavis was in the know of thing that, yes, the chief ministership is not going to come back to him. But what he had not anticipated or was not fully prepared for was to accept the deputy CM-ship under Shinde. But from the central point of view, they believe that, you cannot leave the state like Maharashtra to not only alliance partner, to a leader who has not that kind of experience or that kind of stature at that time. And they also believe that the stability of a coalition can only be possible if they had Fadnavis, because Fadnavis shares a very cordial rapport with all the bureaucrats. They respect him a lot for his conduct, for his understanding of the subject, the way he deals with them. And also, mind you, for 5 years, he had completed this full term as a chief minister without any problems. It was a hurdle-free coalition, where he took all the decisions single-handedly. I mean, though Shiv Sena was very supportive at that time, the undivided Shiv Sena was very supportive to BJP. But whenever they created problems, whenever they tried to create, political issues, somehow he managed to kind of deal with it. And it was during his tenure in the first term where, the Maratha agitation happened. And that was very, very challenging, where the entire state is on the caste cauldron, there was so much of unrest on the caste issue and all.
Yeah, and that time there were also a lot of farmers' protests in the state.
Yes, the farmers' protest. And so there were a lot of challenges in his first tenure. But yes, he overcame all that. And he also found pretty good solutions to it. And he kind of managed that. And not only managed, he also ensured that the BJP emerged single largest party in 2019, though with a reduced kind of a seats. Instead of 122 at that time, they got 105. So there was a drop of seats. But yes, it still was number one party in 2019. So this time, there were talks on whether they will make him CM, they'll not make him CM. There was a lot of pressure from the Shiv Sena side also to retain Shinde. But I think this time the party unanimously had taken a decision, at least in Maharashtra, that they will not accept anybody other than Fadnavis as the chief minister.
And talking about challenges now, one challenge going ahead is obviously keeping this alliance together. And this alliance is somewhat unlikely. So could you talk about that aspect a bit?
See, in any coalition, there are going to be pinpricks, If not, even if we say it's not going to fall apart, we cannot predict anything in politics. But three parties coalition is going to be a challenge for him. Though BJP has a massive mandate of 132 seats on its own, plus with smaller parties, independents, it makes up for 137 seats. So in that sense, it's very unlikely that, anybody can destabilize this government at this moment. But the other challenge for them is, since they have NDA in center where the government is not with an absolute majority, the 7 MPs support from Shiv Sena led by Eknath Shinde is crucial for them. And thirdly, even if that is discounted, saying that, okay, fine, we don't need their support, because with other alliance partners, they have already crossed to 93, I think, in center. But the thing is, the messaging is important, since they contested elections with pre-poll partners, Eknath Shinde and Ajit Pawar's NCP, they will ensure that all of them continue in this government, at least for, full 5 years, definitely. But if not 5 years, at least for 3 years. But I don't see any instability in this government in that sense. But yes, there will be some tussle on and off. And I think in that sense, as far as government is concerned, they'll work together. As far as political assertion is concerned, each one will try to kind of not only retain their numbers, but also try to kind of electorally grow stronger in their respective areas. Also, this kind of conflict or also this competition and, for the space and expansion will continue. But as far as government is concerned, I don't think there's going to be any problem.
And next we talk about RSS, the ideological parent of the BJP. Last month, the district of Sambhal made headlines after a court-ordered survey of the Jama Masjid there triggered violent clashes, resulting in the deaths of 4 people. The survey was ordered following a petition filed in the district court, claiming that the mosque was built on the site of a Hindu temple. Now, shortly after the clashes in Sambhal, its neighbor in the west witnessed a similar development. A local court in Rajasthan's Ajmer district issued notices to the Union Ministry of Minority Affairs, the Archaeological Survey of India, and the Ajmer Dargah Committee in response to a petition seeking a survey of the renowned Ajmer Sharif Dargah. The petition, filed by Hindu Sena chief Vishnu Gupta, alleged that a temple once stood at the site of the Dargah, like in Kashi and Mathura. These cases have once again raised concerns about the potential for religious tensions across the country. And what's particularly noteworthy is that while the RSS has been vocal about issues in Kashi, Mathura and Ayodhya in the past, it has remained silent on developments in both Sambhal and Ajmer. When we spoke to the Indian Express's Deeptiman Tiwary, he told us the reasons behind it.
So RSS has been silent even about Qutub Minar and Taj Mahal and several other petitions that have been filed. They haven't said anything. So as far as Ayodhya, Kashi, Mathura are concerned, in fact, RSS got associated with the Ayodhya movement much later, or let's say with the Ayodhya issue. Movement was started by them, but with the Ayodhya issue, it got associated much later. Rather, the key issues for Sangh had always been Kashi and Mathura. If we look at their resolutions, in their resolutions, Kashi and Mathura come much before Ayodhya was ever mentioned. So it was always an ideological project for the Sangh to get Kashi and Mathura back. That, the Gyanvapi mosque in Varanasi, they always claimed that it was built after, destroying a temple. And so that temple should be built there again.
Yeah, and what was the slogan? Ayodhya to jhaki hai, Kashi Mathura baki hai.
हाँ, इस तरह के slogans अयोध्या के movement के time पे दिए गए थे. And Ayodhya movement actually happened much later. And obviously Sangh got directly involved with the Ayodhya movement and they have taken it to the conclusion that they wanted. And the courts have given a verdict in their favor. And while RSS has maintained that more than 1,000 temples in India have been destroyed by Muslim invaders and that it is an attack on the dignity of the Hindu society and it was an instrument of subjugation, cultural subjugation of the Hindus by Muslims. And there has been this general articulation that, this is an injustice which must be corrected. But barring these three monuments, that is the Ayodhya, Kashi and Mathura, RSS has never specifically spoken about any other monument.
See, when you mention Qutub Minar or Taj Mahal, these are one of the most popular monuments in the country. They attract a lot of tourists from around the world. So starting something about them, one would imagine, would be extremely contentious. But Sambhal and Ajmer in that regard are different. Why hasn't the RSS said anything about them?
Okay, first, the petitioners in these cases are not people from the Sangh Parivar.
So the ones who have initiated these petitions, they're not from RSS?
Not a single of these petitions have been initiated by anyone who is, say, an office bearer or is associated with the RSS in any official capacity. So, one, RSS looks at it is that this is not my direct business. Two, there are many in the RSS who feel that making these random claims everywhere, will weaken the strong cases that, so to say, that they have in places like Kashi and Mathura. They believe that, they can actually get Kashi and Mathura. They believe that just the way Ayodhya judgment went in their favor, the courts will give favorable judgment in Kashi and Mathura because they believe they have a strong case. And if investigation is carried out, there will be cogent evidence which will come up to show that these places were built on destroyed temples and those masonry from those temples has been used to build these Islamic structures. They are not so confident about every other claim, even if they may believe that, there may be a temple that may have existed or something may have been destroyed. They feel that making these claims throughout the country and that too pretty randomly, so like claiming a Taj Mahal, okay, they believe that it will sound so outrageous that even the genuine claims of their Kashi and Mathura will begin to look frivolous. And the courts may take an adverse opinion that now you want to, create some kind of acrimony in the society and you're, filing petitions randomly across the country. So you have some kind of political agenda of creating social disharmony, and then these cases will not reach the kind of conclusion that the Sangh wants. So it wants to some sort of exercise of caution on the part of these petitioners. In fact, RSS leaders have told us that they've even told some of these petitioners to exercise restraint and, just not go on randomly claiming every mosque.
So, okay, if these petitioners are not aligned with the Sangh, if they're not a part of the RSS, what are their motivations to file these petitions?
Okay, so we have to understand 2-3 things about Sangh. One is Sangh claims to be an organization which is engaged in the activity of awakening the Hindu society. This is the word that they use. So it is creating a sort of a sense of culture among the population and a sense of India which they think what India should be. And sometimes they say that once the Hindu society is awakened, what the Hindu society does is not in our control. Okay, so if individuals are fighting for the dignity of Hindu society, there is nothing we can do. They are individuals. If he was our Karyakarta, then we would say something. He is not our Karyakarta, what can we do? Two is that they do understand, and why they are quiet, is that there is a general support for, because let's understand, it is their narrative that more than 1,000 temples have been destroyed to build mosques. So that they cannot back away from. So they believe that there is a general support for these kind of endeavors among even RSS cadres. So the leadership will think twice before saying that, we completely disengage with this. We are not for this. Two is they actually want to wait and watch. Let's see what happens. What is the outcome of these cases? If they are favorable in the courts, then maybe we can render support. If it is creating too much trouble in the society and without any gains, then we will disengage or denounce it. Is the way RSS functions actually. So at least at this point in time, they don't want to directly engage with the issue.
And we know that RSS is not a political organization in that sense, but do these issues end up helping the BJP politically?
When there is polarization in society, we all know that it helps the BJP. And polarizing electoral campaigns are not new to the BJP. We have seen every time that the BJP has entered the electoral fray, they have tried to polarize elections. So whether RSS does it, whether individuals do it, or independent organizations do it, a polarized atmosphere is likely to help the BJP given what may be the constitution of the demography at a particular place. For example, sometimes consolidation of Muslims also goes to the disadvantage of the BJP. But in a general sense, if there is a polarized atmosphere in the country and there is this constant, discourse which is on polarizing lines, it helps the BJP override caste divisions, which is what the opposition has been trying to bring into the mix of electoral politics in the country by pushing caste survey and talking about caste. So it helps the BJP override caste divisions because BJP understands that Muslims are not going to vote for it. So it has to compensate that by getting more and more Hindu votes. So yes, this kind of polarization helps the BJP. Whether these individuals and these organizations who are filing petitions have any dotted line with the BJP, we don't know.
Like we don't know if they're doing this to sort of curry favor with the BJP.
Yeah, we don't know. Also, see, these petitions will immediately put you in the headlines. Okay, so you become a personality who goes on TV and you get a lot of footage on national TV. Your organization is on the front page of every newspaper. You may be a nobody. You may have done nothing in the society to actually gather a lot of public support. But this kind of an exposure can catapult you to a certain position where you can nurture some kind of political ambitions.
And in the end, we talk about the premiere of the Telugu film Pushpa 2 in Hyderabad, where a 39-year-old woman named M. Revati tragically lost her life in a stampede. Following the incident, the police have filed a case against the management of the Sandhya Theatre, actor Allu Arjun, and his security team. The Deputy Commissioner of Police for the Central Zone of Hyderabad Police told the Indian Express's Srinivas Janyala that stringent action as per law will be taken against all individuals responsible for the chaotic situation inside the theatre, which led to the death of one person and injuries to others, adding that the theatre management failed to inform the police that the lead actor and other cast members would be attending the event. Meanwhile, the station house officer of the nearest police station reported that around 9:30 p.m., actor Allu Arjun arrived at the theatre with his personal security team. When the crowd tried to enter along with him, his security team began pushing back people, aggravating an already overcrowded situation. While Revati tragically passed away, her son also sustained serious injuries and remains in critical condition. According to the hospital where he's being treated, his condition is attributed to prolonged unresponsiveness, which likely caused severe hypoxia and potential lung injury. You were listening to 3 Things by The Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.